In this episode, we thought we'd share some observations from when we bought our boat. Some of the successes and some of the pitfalls. Welcome aboard.
Hi, and welcome. Well, it is the beginning of March, and we are less than 2 months from our boat being back in the water and the start of boating season. We are really excited about that. Jacqueline and I were talking over the weekend, though, and we realized it's been just over a year since we saw our Carver for the very first time. And as we talked about it, we realized that from the point of first seeing the boat until purchase, and now all the projects to make it our own, there are some things we did pretty well, I thought, but we certainly missed a few things as well. And that's the point of this video. We wanted to share some observations from when we bought our boat. If you're a new boater, this might be some good information for you or guide you towards some resources. If you're an experienced boater and you have some stories or some resources or checklists, feel free to post it down in the comment section because we'd love to share that. So, in no particular order whatsoever, some of our observations on buying a boat. The first one is attention to detail, both for the buyer and for the seller. From our point of view, we had a pretty good idea of what we wanted in terms of the type of boat, the size, and the configuration. That really helped us narrow down our searches. Once on a couple of boats, what we found important for attention to detail was to get beyond the cosmetics of the boat itself and really open up some hatches and get a sense of cleanliness, any strange odors, the overall sense of a boat being well maintained and well cared for. All of that was absolutely critical. Before we saw our Carver, we actually looked at a Prowler 10 meter. Very similar configuration to our 33 aft cabin. When we were doing the tour, I was just getting the sense maybe it hadn't been as frequently maintained as it could have been and wasn't as well cared for as I would have liked. At one point I opened a hatch in the aft cabin and realized it was full of ice, and that's where the aft bilge pump was. So that was completely ice covered. Okay, that can happen. When I opened up the fridge, I found a piece of cake. So I said to the owner, "Hey man, you got a piece of cake in your fridge." "What?" "Yeah. Don't eat it." That fact ruined the rest of the tour for me, because if the owner missed something as obvious as a piece of cake in a fridge, which probably should have been left open to air anyway, then what else wasn't done? What are the small things that I couldn't see that he might have missed as well? We didn't buy the Prowler. We got a much better boat instead. But the fact that boat cake story still gets told when people are thinking of buying a boat. It just, if you are trying to sell a boat, you think you would want to do everything you can to give the best first impression to a prospective buyer, which might involve cleaning it. I don't know, take the cake out of the fridge, something like that. The second observation is to get a marine survey. Absolutely critical for us. We made it a condition of sale. And what it did was gave peace of mind. So the surveyor that we used for the Carver was the same surveyor I had used for our first boat, the Sea Ray 280 Sundancer. I like the level of detail in the marine survey. There are moisture readings, there are some technical information, and there were various observations within the survey that, at least in one case, was a point of negotiation with the seller. One thing I didn't do, but I wish in hindsight that I had, was to get the engines inspected. To get a mechanic in, not just a compression check, but to really see the impeller, the belts, the condition, to go into a little more detail, again, to give the peace of mind that the engines are as completely reliable as they could be, or to identify issues that I can put into a repair schedule. We didn't do that, and that's one of the things I wish I had. The next observation is the sea trial. That was the second condition we put for the sale of the boat. We wanted to take it out, run it through its paces, and just make sure everything worked. We were able to do that. It was a beautiful day, actually, in the Thousand Islands when we did the sea trial. And I was a little disappointed. I wanted it choppier and windier to really gauge how the boat handled in less than ideal conditions. No such luck, I'm afraid. But it was excellent. The boat is nimble, responsive, handled beautifully. And the only thing I wasn't able to do was a wide open throttle check. And that was to run it at maximum RPMs and see if that fit within the tolerances set by the manufacturer. The owner wasn't keen on me doing that at all, and well, it was still his boat, so no such luck. Part of that was the day we did the sea trial was also the first time we'd seen the boat on the water, and that was the first time we were able to do a systems check. We went through and found, for example, that the air conditioners didn't work. The water pump was leaking. That became a negotiation point with the seller to get the water pump fixed before we purchased the boat. As it turned out, the air conditioners still don't work, and one of my lessons learned was the use of my wording. Instead of saying I wanted the water pump fixed, I should have said I want to ensure the air conditioners are operational. Another example for the systems check was the generator. It turned over, but it didn't start. The owner had said he didn't use the generator much, and my thought was the carburetor was just gummed up. Again, I should have insisted that the generator be serviced and serviceable and operational before we took possession of the boat. And finally, the ice maker, which for some reason I thought worked, but didn't. And when I removed it from the housing in the salon, it wasn't hooked up. Again, should have insisted that the ice maker be functional. Really, I think in cases like this, you have a couple of options. One is just to accept the risk and move on. We did that with a couple of systems. The second is to ensure that the systems are up and running, and maybe that becomes a point of negotiation with the seller, where they either drop the price or they get the work done. And third, I suppose if the systems were serious enough and the issues were serious enough that you walk away from it. We weren't going to do that with the Carver. We got it for a very fair price, and we knew that there were some things we were going to end up improving on it anyway. Finally, and it might not seem that obvious, smells. We looked at the boat in February. It was shrink wrapped. The broker had to cut a hole in the shrink wrap for us to get it in and look around. And because it was cold, we weren't really aware of any smells. By June, when we finally owned the boat, we were very, very aware of a sharp, fermented kind of smell. It's not fuel, it's not sewage, but it's a sharp odor. We've done a couple of things. I've replaced the valves in the head system. That helped a bit. We took away all the foam in the mattresses, and we found when we got them home that they had really absorbed the odor. So that probably didn't help, but we're replacing all that this year anyway. At a last resort, we may have to replace the waste hoses. Nobody's looking forward to that, but that might have to be done. The point being, you might look at a boat in the wintertime and you might find yourself confronted with some smells in the summertime, especially with a hotter climate, more humid, and less chance to air out the boat. So that's it on that topic. If you like what you saw today, hit the subscribe button. If you have some comments or some stories of your own, put them in the comment section, and hit like button on the video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.